Are you still rolling?
Yes, and you must. Do not stop. Do not stop. You want to know things you need to remember for this show? Keep rolling. I was going to tell you a story. Welcome to episode 7, good golly, of the Toronto Beer Podcast with me, Chris Schreier, your host, and my co-host, Mrs. Mandie Murphy. Miss, how do you sign those forms?
I don't often get asked, but I guess it would be Mrs. Murphy.
You do. Well, and that's your Twitter, right?
It's my that's my Twitter and my email address.
That's right. So that's good.
I thought Mark was so clever when he locked up Mr. Murphy at gmail.com. So and we had just gotten married. So like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to lock up Mrs. Murphy at gmail.com. It'd be the Mr. and Mrs. And we got them both. So it's great.
That's pretty cool. I don't know, you've probably seen it, gotten messages and such. And I know frequently I forget my default Gmail is my catch-all. And then like if I need to reply from the blog or the podcast or any one of about 8 other email addresses that I might use, if I forget to do that, I respond from my catch-all, which is ericasboy@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't Gmail when I got it. I think at Yahoo, but it was my very first email address back in 1997.
Wow, you're so old.
And and me and Erica had been dating for like maybe 2 weeks, and I was like, whatever, I have to get rid of this email address. Just get a new one, and it kind of stuck. So I keep it like in sort of for the humor of the whole situation, because that's a bit ridiculous. And
it's adorable.
It's not as bad as. It is adorable, and it's not as bad as like I set up a Hotmail account just on a whim like last year, just to have to use if I really wanted to embarrass the person I was giving it to. And that one is FoxyBJ69 at hotmail.com, because people with Hotmail addresses often have like the worst usernames. Have you found this?
Yeah, because they're so old usually. Like the address would be so old. I don't know that people sign up for Hotmail addresses today, do they? Is it even a thing?
Well, we were actually just talking before we went live about this little contest I ran on Facebook, giving away some beer and scooping email addresses. There were 6 winners. 4 of them provided Gmail addresses and 2 of them provided Hotmail addresses. Now, I'm aware that when you provide an email address like that for a contest, it's normally one that you don't mind getting spammed at. I'm not going to spam you, but I do the same thing. So I don't feel, bad about that or anything. But yeah, 2 Hotmail addresses, and I'm always blown away. My tattoo artist still uses a Hotmail address too. I'm like, really? Hotmail? Do you like being hacked? Have you gotten a job application with a really bad email address on it?
Nope, never.
Well, that's good. Although you're still young in terms of business experience at left field. And so who knows, maybe you will.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen.
I guarantee it. So let's talk about what we're drinking, because if you're a regular listener at the Toronto Beer Podcast, you'll know that the past couple of episodes we've recorded in the morning, and Mandie, being a good socially conscious person, has not been drinking beer despite the name of the podcast. I have, but that's nothing out of the ordinary. But I know it's now nighttime. It is 8:48 p.m. What are you consuming tonight, Mandie?
I'm enjoying a Bose Festival, and I haven't had this beer probably since Oktoberfest last year. I guess it's their summer seasonal, but I just haven't made it out to their booths at the events or at any other place I might grab this beer. So it's my first one of the season, and it's always a great go-to for me. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that beer as well.
What are you drinking,
It's funny.
Chris?
Well, I'll tell you in a second. It's also a festival type beer, but the Bose Festival, that's an alt beer. And it was the first alt beer I'd had. And obviously, I mean, alt beer comes from, where does it come from? Not Dortmund, but somewhere in Germany. I don't know, somewhere in Germany. I'm not a beer expert or anything. But then I subsequently had Creemore did one. And then I had one from wherever it is that they're from. And I was like, wow, that Bose one is really, really good. Like, I'm not going to say it's like the best or anything like that, but I mean, just in terms of sticking to the style, fantastic beer. So I am drinking, actually, funny enough, another German style and a bit more of an obscure one. I'm having a Gosa from the local 7, they call themselves. It's the Session beer they make. I love the Gosa beer for summer because it's, tart and effervescent and not hugely alcoholic. And so I'm having a bottle of that, and it is delicious.
That's a style I love as well. Don't you add salt to the beer on some occasions?
Well, okay, I've added salt to the beer once with hilarious results, but no, I tend to just leave it with whatever salt they kind of have put in brewing. The hilarious time was recording at the Edge. We were doing the Opa's Ghosts from Bose, and they'd included a little packet of Himalayan pink salt around the neck, and Fred insisted against my better judgment that we throw some in the beer to see how it would taste. But of course, salt is crystalline and therefore adds like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of nucleation points in the beer, which means that all of the carbon dioxide and saturation immediately nucleates, and it basically flows over like those volcanoes you would make as a child with vinegar and baking soda. And of course, it was while we were filming, so it made a giant mess. And good times. Good times.
That's perfect.
It was. I felt a little bit like Steve from Bose had pranked me without even necessarily meaning it. So, speaking though of Session Muskoka, which I attended, was that last weekend? Like 8 days ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's catch up because we've done a bunch of festivals between the two of us, which is to say 3. And let's just check in on those. I had a fantastic time at Session Muskoka. Weather was beautiful. As you warned me, the location is fantastic. Totally chilled out vibe. The music, Strumbellas were there. So I offered, because I was going to be there notably before, I actually went up the day before, to Kurt and Jed that I would help out if they needed a bit extra, muscle power, because I'm a strapping young fella. I ended up helping out with a bit of parking as the festival was starting, and I actually pointed the Strumbella's van into the backstage area. It was, I felt pretty cool about that. Yeah, that was good. I didn't really say anything other than, hey, I'm a big fan, go over there. But that was my moment. Hey, how was Roundhouse Craft Beer Festival? Because I didn't end up making it.
It was great. It's always great. They pretty much doubled the amount of space this year. So that was pretty cool. It was gigantic. Like, they took over every square inch of Roundhouse Park. So it was much, much larger than it had been previously.
Cool.
It was a pretty nice weekend. It was a little bit muggy and rainy on Saturday morning. But generally the weather was pretty great. What else?
Any standouts for you? Any awesome participants or cool booths that you visited?
They had a t-shirt gun and they shot t-shirts off the roof of the brewery. So that was pretty amazing.
And did you ask them where they got the t-shirt gun? Because you guys kind of obviously need that.
Now we'll just have to borrow it when we need it. They have big brewery budget, idea. So hopefully they'll just be kind to a fellow OCP member. No, it was a really good festival. To be honest, actually, it was one of the first times, and I think I probably said this regarding the Toronto Festival of Beer, but it was one of the first times that Mark and I didn't work the booth the entire weekend with the help of volunteer family and friends. So we have a larger team now, and a bunch of the team was down there helping with load-in and taking shifts at the booth. And it was actually the first time I didn't set up the booth completely on my own. I actually ended up being sick on Saturday morning, not alcohol related. I was just not well. And so the guys went down and set the booth up for us, made everything look pretty great. And when I ended up getting down there on Saturday afternoon, everything looked really perfect. It was a good lesson for me and sort of just let it go, because I have trouble doing that sometimes. But they did a really fantastic job and really impressed the heck out of us. And then on Sunday we went down and helped out a little bit, but it was Mark and I's anniversary on Sunday.
I actually saw the photos and I meant to say congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. 7 years. So Sunday was the actual day of our anniversary. So the team sort of insisted that we didn't work. And it was nice. We ended up grabbing some mugs, walking around the festival, enjoying some beers. We had brought Wrigley down with us, and so we
awesome.
We had some beers, and we put a blanket under a tree, and we had a little nap right in the middle of the beer fest. And it's just that type of beer fest, right? Where, like, how many beer festivals can you go to and nap under a tree? But that's just the vibe of this one. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
So it
Did
was
they have the train running?
they did, yeah.
That's awesome. Because as soon as I said that, I was like, that might be a recipe for disaster. Because I've seen tourists nearly get hit by it despite the loud whistle. But that's great that they
No,
do
you
that.
know what? Steam Whistle actually this year they put fencing around the entire train track. I guess for safety reasons and to make sure that the huge number of guests that they were getting down into Roundhouse Park didn't interfere with the train operations. So there was
Right.
no risk really of people getting hit by the train as it zips around the Roundhouse Park because they had fencing all around it. So it was great.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a really good time. The only thing that's unusual this year is that it didn't occur on the same weekend as a Jay's home series. And so
Yeah, they were kicking ass in New York this weekend.
yeah, so that was a bit of a downer for us because we typically do pretty well at our booth when you get the before and after game crowd from the Jays. Not to say we didn't do well, but you just don't get all those crazy baseball fanatics coming out because they're not down at the Dome. So yeah, that was really the only big difference for us this year.
Cool. So it's funny you mentioned that you were sick Saturday morning and took the time to note that it wasn't alcohol related. I don't know if that was a knowledgeable shot or not, but I also was sick Saturday morning and sick Saturday afternoon and into Saturday evening, and it was alcohol related.
Yikes.
Not just because I went to the Only Cafe Beer Festival on Friday night, because of course the Only Cafe is a very responsible location, and it doesn't make its business off of over serving people. I had a very moderate amount, I would say, to drink at the Only Cafe Craft Beer Festival, because that's what I always do there. That said, I then went home. I took a buddy of mine back to our place to watch the fantastically awful movie Grown Ups 2 3 times in a row, because we listened to this podcast called The Worst Idea of All Time, which I highly recommend. 2 Kiwi guys spend a whole year watching Grown Ups 2 and then reviewing it every week. And now they're in season 2 where they do the same with Sex and the City 2. And we listened to the whole first season separately while we worked because we both have similar job types. And we decided, we really need to watch this now. The first time we just watched it, the second time we watched it, and they provided like a director's commentary that they recorded, the Kiwis did. And the third time we watched it playing the drinking game. No, wait, I've got that backwards. We did the drinking game and then the director's commentary. And that's why I was in such a bad state, is because the drinking game was designed by 2 people who really hated the movie and really didn't want to have to be sober while they watched it. And so I was an absolute mess Saturday morning. But Saturday evening found me in the sauna at Erica's family's cottage, and I sorted myself right out with a good steam, and everything was better. But the Only Cafe was amazing, as always. I spent a lot of time actually over by left field and not left field. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Let's edit that one. I spent a lot of time over at Side Launch and Nickelbrook, and obviously toured around the other booths as well. It was a really good time. Quite busy though. So good for the Only Cafe there. And had a fantastic time. Can't wait for the fall one. The fall one's one of my favorites because it's normally not so cold that you don't want to be outside, but it's not like sticky hot either.
Try any great beers that you hadn't had before?
Nothing that I hadn't had. I was pretty insular in my drinking. I'm just trying to think. Nope, I didn't. I mostly stuck to the known waters, but still lovely. I drank I'd say a moderate volume of Paysan Saison from Nickelbrook, which is just lovely. And Side Launch wheat beer was on. They tried to have their Helles lager, but they were having some problems with that keg, so it was just wheat beer, and that's never a problem in my books. So yeah, good times. Let's jump ahead now, though, because we're at 16 minutes, and that's a lot of preamble. Hey, I pulled up this really cool thing on the bar towel. You said you'd seen it, but you hadn't read it yet. This was a menu provided, I want to say, by Gary Gilman, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And it is from Orso, which was an Italian restaurant on John Street from, did I say 1990? And it's a beer pairing dinner hosted, or with, maybe not hosted by the Gambrinus Society, but with Michael Jackson, which I hope everyone listening to the podcast knows is not the fellow with the white glove, but in fact is arguably one of the most important beer writers since writing about beer probably was a thing. Anyway, it was 1990, and the menu, I'm going to put it in the show notes, is just, I mean, it's mind-bending to look at it and then think about where we are now in terms of what types of beer are available and how we deal with pairing and stuff. Have you looked at this yet?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Any standouts for you? Anything make your eyes pop out?
I am scanning through trying to see if I even recognize any of these, not only beers, but brand names other than the Labatt's and the Sleemans that are in here.
Yeah, I mean, we got Welly,
and a
Special
Wellington.
Pale Ale. Yeah. Sure. Do you remember Connor's? They've got the Imperial Stout, and Connor's Best Bitter was a great Best Bitter. They did some amazing English style beers.
No, I don't know anything about most of these breweries. Like, what were you doing in 1990?
Being 10, whatever 10-year-olds do.
Yeah, like I was 8 years old. The Jays had never won a World Series. Like, this is just so foreign to me, this whole thing. And most of these brands, I've never even heard of them.
Yeah. I mean, I might have one or two up on you, being, 2 years older than you. Gritstone, Premium Ale is on this, and definitely remember Gritstone. Of course, you can remember Upper Canada. They're still around as a unfortunate value brand from Sleeman Sapporo, but we don't need to go there. Brick Brewing right down at the bottom, of course, one of the early adopters. But yeah, no, I'm in sort of the same boat. Burlington Light, never heard of that. That was paired with pizza bread with garlic, olive oil, and rosemary. They paired a light lager with it, which admittedly, given the amount of bread involved, maybe not a bad pairing, but more just indicative, I think, of the availability on the market in 1990. There's actually 2 light beers in 2 separate pairings.
And the pairings are both with pizza.
And they're both with pizza.
I've never had back-to-back pizza courses.
No, nor have I. I think ever even had a light lager at a beer pairing. But there you are. 2, like a Pilsner lager, a premium lager, a cream ale, a premium ale. More than half of the pairings were still kind of cold yellow beers. The standouts.
And then you move right into a standard.
SPA.
Then you move right into a standard dark ale, porter, imperial stout.
Yeah, exactly. And then 2 box for the cold Zabaione with strawberries. I don't even know what that is. Oh, it's Sabayon. That's the Italian equivalent. Sort of somewhere between a mousse and a custard. Anyway.
Someone should recreate this dinner.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That'd be a lot of fun.
That would be a lot of fun. The beers would be tricky because, I mean, more than most of these aren't available anymore.
No, but you could do like same style, but new brands would be fun.
Get on this, Mandie. Oh no, wait, you guys don't make all those beers. We'll organize it together.
More than half of these beers are lagers. We don't make lagers at all.
So yeah, anyway, we should do this vintage beer dinner. A remake of it. I like that. If anyone listening to Toronto Beer Podcast runs a restaurant that's heavily Italian,
or a brewery that makes lagers,
or a brewery that makes lagers, get in touch. We are going to need 2 light lagers, at least 2 lagers. We can get. I think it'd be fun to still do Sleeman Cream Ale because you can actually still get that one.
Yeah, why not?
Upper Canada Dark, I'm pretty sure you can still get.
Wellington SPA.
Definitely. Gritstone Premium Ale. I think Gritstone is fully gone, but I feel like they were still around as like somebody's redheaded stepchild value brand not that long ago. Anyway, roasted guinea fowl, rolled pasta with spinach and ricotta. We can do all this. Cold grilled salmon. Come on. This is easy stuff. We're going to do it. Okay, it's a plan. Well, it's not a plan yet. It's just a concept. We'll make a plan. But this is an interesting thing. So, like I said, I'm going to put the menu up. We'll figure out when our event will be. Post that as well sometime. But you can see the menu in the meantime. It is a beautiful little peek into the beer scene 25 years ago, which is kind of crazy to say in right here in Toronto. What's interesting about that, and actually part of the reason why I threw it in our show notes, is because I'd also dropped in businessinsider.com did an article of the 20 best beers in the world according to Rate Beer. Now, this was an interesting list because I think the word they use is ratebeer.com has curated a list of the top beers in the world. So this isn't just like they took the top beer from 20 styles. It's like ratebeer.com, considering their own ratings, I guess, put this list together. And I said to you, of the 20 beers, how many have you had? And you haven't actually had time to look at the list because, of course, I just did this today, as is my ideal. But I'll go ahead and tell you that of the 20, I think I've had 4. And that's only because one of them is due to sale aphrodisiac. And I've had a couple at the top end. One of the Hill Farmsteads, Zombie Dust, and something else. Anyway, I'm just scrolling through. I should have made better notes. What's no, you know what? I've never had Westy 8.
Really?
Oh, no, wait, I've had
what
8.
Kind of
I don't
a
know
beer blogger are you?
No, I was going to say, and I've had Pliny. This is extra 8, and I'm not sure if that's the same as 8.
My bad.
That's the thing. Because we have Westy 8 at Castro's, as well as the Blonde and the 12. And I don't remember if it's 10 or 12. Rochefort 10, West Veletrin 12.
Yeah, I've not had the extra. I've not had the extra 8 either.
Yeah, I think it is a different beer. Pliny, the Elder. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it was pronounced Pliny.
Oh, I don't know. It probably is Pliny.
No, we get it. We get that with our own beer. It's our own fault for naming our beer some sort of obscure terms, but we get that all the time at festivals. So day in and day out when you're pouring at festivals, people will come up and check out your chalkboard and say, "Can I have a Euphis? Give me the Ephesus."
Nice. Do you ever get any Baltic people who ask you for a Maris?
Just all kinds of people are asking me for Marie. Can I get the Marie? I'm like, oh, it's not a French beer. It's
that's even better.
Marie. I'm like, nope, no such thing. It's a Maris. But
my brother-in-law married a woman named Maris from Estonia. And so it's a bit of a, I have to remember almost to not say Maris and just say Maris. You really got to air that Maris to kind of Americanize it, I think.
It's all about baseball, which is extremely American. So just say it as American and as American of a way as you can. Maris. Ephus.
Maris. Ephus. 6 4. Oh no.
About.
Okay. I'm going to step down off that soapbox now because I'm running out of juice on it. And we're going to go back. Rate Beer's top 20 best beers. Any standouts to you, but anything off this list that you really agree you love?
Well, I had already chosen Pliny as one of my top IPAs of all time, so that's a standout. But to be honest, I hadn't really...
Did you choose Pliny as one of your top 4?
Sure did.
I'm going to look that up.
Maybe I didn't. Jeez, Chris.
The internet remembers everything. Keep going.
I thought that's why I had such a high score.
Nope, you did not.
I didn't.
You had Heady. Heady is why you had such a high score at 100. And then Fathead, Head Shrinker, double IPA, Nickelbrick and Modest, double IPA, and Great Lakes Karma Citra.
My bad. I had originally written down Pliny when I was making my long list, but then you made me narrow it down. You had asked me for 3, I ended up with 4. I started with like 10, so...
That's fair enough.
It was on there.
That's okay. This has been totally sidetracked. Okay, anything else you want to add to this? Because I have a bit of a rant I'm going to step up on and maybe open a can of worms.
Rant away.
You sure? I was about to have a sip of beer.
Have a sip. You're going to need it for your rant, I believe.
Yeah, I needed to moisten my palate for this one. I haven't counted. I maybe should have been counting while I was letting you talk. I'm going to go ahead and guess 6 of the 20 are from Hill Farmstead. Now, I am not for a moment going to suggest that 6 or maybe even 7 of those beers don't deserve to be on the top 20. Partially because I think I've only had one beer from Hill Farmstead and I can't even remember what it was. It was fantastic. But there was just a thing today about Hill Farmstead on Beer Advocate, and Todd, one of the two Beer Advocate brothers, actually locked the thread because he was just like, this is going to go so ugly. We just don't need to go here. But on the one hand, you had somebody complaining that Hill Farmstead was way too exclusive and like was intentionally exclusivizing their market through their distribution choices. And that basically it was an inconvenience to him because he couldn't get it easily because he lived more than an hour away or something like that. On the other, of course, were people who were saying, quit your whining. It's just beer. There are some really good beers near you. What's the big deal? If you don't like the business practices, just don't buy it, which is what you're doing anyway. So I wanted to weigh in on Hill Farmstead because to people in Ontario, maybe who aren't really indoctrinated, you might not even know about Hill Farmstead, but this is a place where like every day that they're open, there's a significant lineup to get beer. They frequently run out. They do only make a very limited amount of beer and they make it all very well. But it has certainly caused some consternation between people who are like, it's, you know, elitism or hipsterism. And then of course the people who just say, who cares? People can operate breweries however they want. What I will say that annoys me about Hill is almost that these conversations even happen. I tend to side on that second half, which is like, hey, if you don't like a brewery's practices, why are you complaining about it? Just shut up and drink other beer. It's just beer. In fact, the guy, Todd, the brother who shut it down, had a really good comment, which is it's a luxury item. It's not a required thing. And so just calm down. But almost as much as I hate that sense of like people just whining about their own inconvenience, I hate that people are even that complaining about this stuff. Like I almost don't want to state my side to the story because I'm just like, wow, there are, even in beer, there's so many better things to be worrying about than if a brewery is intentionally eluding their beer or something like that. So this is my Hill Farmstead thing.
I couldn't agree more with you, Chris. People love to complain about everything. If people don't have something to complain about, they're just going to complain about not having anything to complain about. Some of the complaints that I see on a daily basis are absolutely ridiculous. And I used to have a policy of finding a kind and friendly response, getting back to people within 48 hours, and just trying to make everybody happy. And it's not possible. And the number of complaints people send me about some of the ways that we do business, it's like, sorry, you don't get it, and that's fine. It's not for everybody. Whatever.
Yeah.
I got one this afternoon. I'll read it to you.
Oh, okay.
I just moved over to the East End, so I stopped by your brewery today hoping to pick up a growler of resin bag. I left disappointed.
I like where this is going already.
I left disappointed without buying any of your products after learning that your brewery does not offer a returnable growler option and resin bag would not be available again until December. Okay. Sorry. Like.
Yeah. Duly noted. That's incredible.
I'm very sorry that you're disappointed and that we can't make you happy, but everyone's working their butts off to make it as great a place as possible and to keep beer in the fridge, to keep beer in stock, and to keep beer at the accounts. Our extra fermenters that were supposed to be here at the end of June won't be here until the end of August, and we're not going to make everybody happy. We can't keep up, and we've specifically chosen not to offer growlers for very specific reasons, which I've mentioned before in the podcast and talked about publicly many times. It's like, sorry, it's just who we are and what we do, and I guess we're not going to please you, and we've lost a fan, and that sucks because I tend to be the type of person who wants to please everybody, but it's not going to happen.
It's really funny because in the next bit we're going to tackle, I was going to say something that was basically going to be like, hey, this might lose me some fans. And guess what? If it does, I won't miss you, which I realize isn't what you're saying. You're much more tolerant than I am. But yeah, that's sort of complaining about stuff, especially that. I felt personally inconvenienced because you didn't do a thing that I wanted you to do. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. Top secret. A lot of other breweries have growlers. Like, what do they expect your response to be? oh, sorry, man. I'll just whip out and order a skid of growlers, which is probably going to cost me in the thousands of dollars, and also implement some sort of technology to fill them. That's insanity.
It's not even about that. It's like, if it mattered so much what to you so much what you were going to get when you arrived, you should have checked ahead. Like, I don't specifically set out to go to some place all the way across town just assuming that certain things will be available. Like,
well, this person is an East Ender now, so you know.
Fair enough, right? I missed that piece of email. Yeah, totally. So they didn't even come that far, and
that's right.
When we launch Resin Bag in December, hopefully they'll come back. Hopefully we haven't lost them completely. But it's just, I don't even know how to deal with something like that anymore.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm really sorry you were inconvenienced. Period. Goodbye. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly it. Hey, yeah, sorry we do business the way we do business.
It sucks. I'd love to have Resin Bag in the fridge too. We all would.
Yeah, I wouldn't even give them that, to be honest with you. I can stock whatever the heck I want to stock. Anyway, let's jump ahead now, and I'll alienate some people for you, and you know, we'll be on equal terms. We brought this up, I think, 2 shows ago in the show notes, and pushed it off and pushed it off. And then I was kind of like, you want to do this today? And actually you weren't even all that, you know, jazzed on it. But then today, just today, I came across like 3 different things that I was like, no, I think this has got some legs today. So we're going to talk about sexism, and it's particularly about in our community, but I mean, you can't really talk about that, particularly because I think both of us are going to agree it's not as prevalent in our community as it is in a lot of others. But you can't talk about that without talking about broader topics. And the first thing that I was like, yep, no, this is timely right now. Is in the broader community. There's all this talk right now about whatever his name is, the friggin' idiot, like Roosh V or whatever, the pickup artist. You know this guy, Mandie? Not personally, but of him.
You know what? I've heard the news, but I don't know who the guy is.
So he's this douchebag out of the States.
I know that he's a guy that's not welcome in Toronto, according to the mayor, because he is sexist and has some terrible stuff to say about rape, but I actually haven't bothered looking up who he is or what he does.
He actively campaigns that you can't... I'm trying to think of how to word this. Basically, the idea is if you're on private property, it's not rape. Nice, eh? So like I said, this is a douchebag in the States who likes to make douchebag disciples of, let's go with emotionally maladjusted, stupid men. And so what I was going to say to alienate people right now, 38 minutes into recording, probably less than that when I edit it. But anyway, a good chunk of the way into the podcast. If you're a fan of Roosh V or whatever his name is, you can stop following me. You can stop reading my blog. You can stop listening to this podcast. And I swear to God, I won't miss you. Not even a little. You can go straight to hell for all I care. This guy is an idiot. And if you believe anything he says, you have problems. We can work on those problems, but first you have to admit it. So stop following this guy. He's a tool. If you see him in Toronto, throw things at him. Civil disobedience is a worthwhile cause for a man who openly advocates for rape. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
I don't think he should be allowed into the country. Is he already here? We should send him back.
Yeah, they did a thing in Montreal. He's claiming it's a big victory. He had 34 men in a private hotel room for a meeting, which he claims they weren't able to stop. I don't know about in the States, but what you do in literally a private residence, which a hotel is, you're entering into a short-term lease when you rent it.
What hotel?
I can't remember. It's in the news.
If he does appear at any Toronto venues...
They're trying to book a Toronto venue, but of course, immediately every person with a brain is saying, no, this isn't cool. It's a bit like when Action Bronson was going to play at Yonge and Dundas Square. Because on the one hand, you have a very valid freedom of expression, freedom of speech, question. So with an artist like Action Bronson, whose music I don't like his message. Again, I think he appeals to particularly inadequate feeling dudes who feel like they need to boost themselves up by being more macho and talk about dragging up girls and having group sex with them. But as an artist, he's entitled to his art form in a private place where people can choose to go and indulge in that. But he doesn't deserve, he shouldn't be allowed in a public place where this is the point of a public place, is that it's for everybody. I can't go there if he's going to be there. I can't bring my kids there if he's going to be there. He's infringing on my rights now to be in a public space. And that's not okay as far as I'm concerned. I am a socialist, left-wing nutjob, but there you have it. I think it's much, much, much worse when the person a la whatever this friggin' American douchebag not conspiracy pickup artist guy is, where he is actively trying to change people's minds about things that are really horrific. And should be. So I definitely don't think he should be allowed in the country. One of the issues, I believe, is, of course, he doesn't have any criminal charges against him. If he did, that would make it really easy to keep him out. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't. So yeah. Anyway, so he's coming, and he was just in Montreal, and he's coming to Toronto this weekend. So again, fully advocate. I mean, maybe not actual physical violence, but yeah, throw things at him. That's not violent as far as I'm concerned. You want to fill up some overripe green peppers with interior latex paint, or even better, oil-based paint. Go ahead. That's the kind of civil disobedience I'm into. Good old fashioned rotten tomato throwing.
I just read that all the talk and media coverage gave him a big spike in online searches. So let's do one thing and not link to anything relating to him.
Yes, that will not be in the show notes, and I will encourage you not to look him up. Because he's just like I say, a douchebag in the States who has a small soapbox that's made bigger every time anybody links to him. So we're not going to take part in that. But anyway, this is a big news story today, and is indicative, unfortunately, of a reality, which is that not only are we still dealing with sort of more benign forms of sexism, if you could call them that, but still dealing with these very active. This is like the KKK of sexism. So anyway, it got me thinking. We were talking about it, of course, and the other side of this in terms of beer was this big story out of Craft Brewers Conference this year, which actually I've done more looking into now, and I still think is horrific, but at least there's a little bit more context for it. But there were a few events. Now, these are not Craft Brewers Conference events. These are after parties and brewery parties and stuff like that in Portland this year that were hosted at strip clubs. Apparently, this is because Portland has like as many strip clubs as Montreal, and they're much, much, much more common in Portland.
And I believe they have craft beer focused strip clubs because it's Portland.
Yeah, they do. There are, exactly that. Either craft or like strip clubs that at least have craft beer, and then ones that are specifically craft beer strip clubs. So this is, one might say, part of the culture, which I think allowed a lot of people to sweep it under the rug. Hopefully this isn't too extreme a connection, but one might also say that flying the Confederate war flag over the state building in South Carolina was also just a cultural thing. Just because something's cultural doesn't necessarily mean it's okay. And here I really think that's not okay. Again, I am a lefty nut job. I worry about using the term feminist, but certainly would be ideologically in much the same boat as many of the people who would self-identify as feminist. I have no problem with women being comfortable with their bodies, with women celebrating their bodies. Unfortunately, regardless of the motivation of the stripper, as feminist, pro anybody goes kind of thing, as the stripper might be, most of the people going to the strip club are not going to take part in that sense of women's lib. They're going purely to sexually objectify the women who they are viewing, and and that's a good case. I've been to a strip club exactly once, and it was as depressing as hell. And I actually literally finished the night sitting with two fully naked strippers and a guy from New Zealand talking about theological references in the music of U2. So that's kind of how I roll in strip clubs. But I found it not shocking that there would be people hosting craft beer events in strip clubs, but still sort of, I felt like, man, we've got a long way to go, because that's just not okay. It is literally excluding a huge piece of the craft brewing scene. And that's not just to say women. That would be exclusionary to me too, because I wouldn't go. And I just think that's a stupid business choice. So, but that is a huge preamble to say we're going to talk about sexism in craft brewing, and particularly here in Toronto, because that's obviously the focus of our podcast, as it's got the word Toronto right there at the beginning. You, Mandie, have a much better sense than I would about working within beverage alcohol and craft beer particularly, and realities in Toronto, Ontario, wherever, of sexism in the workplace. In your experience, better or worse than experiences in other industries, so on and so forth?
You know what? This isn't a popular opinion, but I just don't encounter it all that often. I find that the type of people who are interested and into craft beer are generally pretty well educated and generally fairly liberal. And I don't know, for myself personally, I've never really encountered the craft beer culture as being a boys' club. Sure, it is dominated by male consumers. I would say that at least like 60% plus of the consumers have got to be male, if not more. But I've never found it to be an exclusionary community. I've always felt very included, whether you're knowledgeable or uneducated around craft beer. I always found it very, and I continue to find it to be very inclusive. I don't know. I don't encounter it a lot personally. I do have a few examples of times when I've encountered it, but I don't know if I would chalk those up to sexism or just other types of stereotyping.
Well, I mean, I'm very open in my definition of sexism, and I'll certainly throw out a couple of examples that possibly other people wouldn't class as sexism. One that I would say, so let me backpedal and say that certainly I agree with you quite a bit, maybe not entirely, particularly in the core of the Ontario industry, like where we both spend a lot of time. I mean, for one, of course it's a male-dominated industry because historically in North America, you go back to a time when it wasn't common for women to work. Like a lot of industries, it's taking more time for women to get more involved in it. The good news is there are tons, yourself being one, and like more women than I could count on two hands in Toronto who are either brewers or brewers. Beer sales reps, which is an easy one. I was trying to say bar owners, which I couldn't quite get out.
Promo girls. You can't forget promo girls.
Okay, so, but that's one of the examples I'm going to. But before we go there, because that one to me is just low-hanging fruit, here's an example, and this is a personal experience, and it actually colored an action of mine. So let me tell you. This is certainly not the rule, but the number of times when I'm at an event and, there's swag involved, and maybe like a pub crawl, maybe during OCB week. I'm not actually not pointing at the OCB pub crawl because I didn't go to it this year, but it could be during Toronto Beer Week. Those type of pub crawls, and there are breweries out left field does this. You got T-shirts to give out, you got hats, stuff like that. And somebody's like, "Hey, you want a shirt?" I go, "Yeah, I'll have a shirt." "Okay, what size are you?" "I'm a medium." "Oh, okay. Yeah, no mediums, large, extra large, extra large. Oh, here's a medium. Oh, no, that's a woman's shirt. Okay." And I've done a little like census on the shirts. So men's, good luck if you find smaller than a large, which given my, not great fitness regimen over the past 6 months. Actually, it's probably a good thing now, but certainly historically, I'm more of a medium shirt wearer. But I've looked at the women's shirts and they range from extra small to medium. That's sexism. That's basically saying we don't want you in our brewery shirt if you're larger than a medium.
Why, Chris?
And
I would invite you to visit my brewery, where I specifically ordered shirts from the only supplier that could offer me a double XL ladies tee.
Love it. When I did my shirt offer that never actually ended up going anywhere, I very intentionally had as much as the provider would allow. There were slightly different colors of pink, which was a bit of a problem for me, but 5 different colors of shirts, all the exact same, men's and women's, and the full gamut of sizes, men's and women's. And I feel like I had to follow the provider's language because it was done through their site, but as much as possible stayed away from gender basing the shirt type, because I know guys who prefer to wear women's shirts for a variety of different lifestyle choices. And I certainly know women who don't feel that most of the women's cuts fit them in a particularly flattering way. And they would rather wear the more, unisex, as I think the company called it, shirt, or what most people would say is men's shirts. So
yeah,
so
even
yes,
I agree.
you guys do a good job.
Even though I stock the ladies shirts, I actually don't wear them. I prefer wearing the unisex or the men's shirts in a smaller size. But I did have a guy come in this week. He's a really tiny guy, and he bought a ladies large tee. Totally cool, no big deal. And I don't stock the ladies extra small tees because, quite honestly, like, adults come in all shapes and sizes, but the only people that would fit into a ladies extra small tee from this tee manufacturer is a child, and it's just not right. So I didn't even bother getting the ladies extra small. The small is meant for a very, 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 very tiny person. Even in the ladies sizes, I'm most comfortable in like a large and XL, and I'm not a large woman by any means. So the sizing is insane. It's always so weird in t-shirts, and I really actually typically hate lady sizes in tees, but I get requests for them all the time, so I decided to stock one that could offer us a double XL ladies tee, because it's just more representative and realistic of what an actual size woman would wear.
Absolutely. And that's good. But again, to me, when I see that from any brewery, and you guys aren't one, and I should have maybe prefaced that because I've worked in your booth, I've seen your t-shirt selection. But yeah, when I see a brewery that'll only hand it up to a women's medium, that's pretty bleak. That's not good news. And then the other one, and you already brought it up, and I just there are, and I realize I'm moving into the realm of somewhat objectification here, but there are some fantastically beautiful women who work in the craft beer scene in Toronto. And that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not so touchy and PC that I won't, actively say, hey, that's a really good looking woman. But I worry because it's not uncommon to meet, say, an event staffer whose only attribute seems to be fitting in something smaller than a women's medium shirt, who can't really talk to you much about the beer, who doesn't seem to know that much about the company. And, you could argue that a couple of different ways. You could say, well, they're the only people applying, and I certainly have no way to prove you wrong on that. But man, I worry about that. I worry about that a lot. When you go up to a booth and there's like 3 people, and it's like Ken and Barbie's really hot, sort of unusually ethnically looking friend, like, that looks pretty intentional and pretty exclusive. And I mean, hey, as much as, we have a guy there too, that still is just using sex to sell. And that's one of the things that we really are supposed to be pushing back against in craft beer. And I don't like it. I don't like it. And it does happen here in Toronto.
Chris, you're reminding me of my reaction the first time I had actually put together an event, like an experiential marketing plan for events and festivals for some of the cooler brands that I had managed. We had always done more traditional media. To spend our marketing budget, we would do like TV and billboards and print. And then as things started getting more and more experiential, that's sort of the way you needed to go as a marketer. I put together an event plan, and I remember working with this promo agency, and their gig was events. That's really what they specialized in. And as I was going through the process with them, I remember being completely alarmed when I received the event proposals from them, because it included like the booth setup and the events that we would be attending and the dates and all the typical stuff you would expect in an event plan, some renderings of how the festival would look and how your booth would sort of fit in amongst it. And then when I scrolled to the later pages in the plan, it included names and headshots of the people who would be staffing the booth.
Yep.
And my response was, can I meet them? I don't care what they look like. I need to talk to these people and meet them. Put them in front of me. Like, I'll book the boardroom, you bring them in. And they were, this promo company that I was working with was completely alarmed that I had made such a request. It was like, well, everything you need is on the page. It was the most unusual interaction ever. And then when I asked where they were sourcing these people from, like how they actually went about hiring them, it was actually through a modeling agency.
I was going to say, tell me it's
through a modeling agency. And I just about lost my mind. I'm like, well, that's not how we're doing it. Sorry, let's start over.
Wow. I will say though, and I said it before, and you've talked about it, within our core group community of people, my experience certainly has been that sexism isn't a problem. I actually remember, I wonder if I should, I'll name names on this one. It was an innocent sort of, Northern European thing, but Anders Kissmeyer made some reference in an interview thing. It was like a talking head panel thing at Bose Oktoberfest 2 years ago, I guess. Somebody asked him about like why he thought there weren't as many women in brewing. And he got off to a great start. And he was talking about like historically recent history, because of course, older history, it was almost exclusively female at points. But more recent history, it's just been a male-dominated industry and it's hard to make change. But then he said, and you do have to lift 25 kilo bags of malt. Like the whole room minorly flipped out, men and women, because we aren't as used to that level of sort of, sexist thinking. Whereas to a lot of Northern Europeans who I know, they'd be like, yeah, well, none of you do, right? Like that's a manly thing to have to do. But I think when it happens in Ontario, we're a little bit more aware of it when it's that sort of glaring. But yeah, I think there are still a lot of more quiet ways, like the t-shirt issue that I take umbrage with, that still exist in Ontario. So we still have some work to do, don't we?
We do. Even on a few occasions when I've, a couple of small examples that I have is on a few occasions where I've helped out with doing some cake deliveries. I'll be honest, I cannot deliver a 50 or a 58 liter cake. I am not strong enough. Yeah. It's just not possible for me to lift it. I can roll it if it's completely on flat ground, but that doesn't help me with getting it out of the van. So it's like, it's just not happening for me. I can, however, deliver a 30 liter keg, and I've done it on many occasions. Take it off the van or the truck and I put it on my dolly and I wheel it inside. It's pretty darn easy. It's not actually that heavy. And on many occasions when I've done that, I've had people come and like actually men come and try to even take the dolly away from me. Like, oh, I can get that. I can help you with that. And fair, like you're just trying to be courteous, but I'm a capable adult and I got it this far. So I did the hard work, which is actually lifting it off the truck. The dolly is actually the easy part. So I don't know. That's sort of a weird thing to encounter as a woman, but it happens all the time. And I don't really know how I feel about it. It doesn't necessarily offend me. It's just an unusual thing to have to deal with as a woman.
Here's like a feminist weight check. How feminist are you? What do you do if a dude holds the door for you?
I say thank you. Same thing I do if a woman holds the door for me.
Yeah, that's good. I hold doors, and occasionally you either get a dirty look or I've even been told off for it. Like, I'm perfectly capable of holding the door. I'm like, yeah, I hold doors for guys too. I tend to hold doors for people.
Yeah, I'm Canadian.
Yeah, but okay, good. Sorry, you were about to say something and I cut you off with my check.
Yeah, I've had another one, and I don't know if this was a sexism issue or if it's because I was wearing a t-shirt and I hadn't done my hair and I had no makeup on that day, so I looked a little bit like a little boy, which sometimes happens. But working at a festival one time, and Mark actually wasn't working at the booth with me. It was myself and another one of our team members. And someone at the booth came over and I guess they had seen us working at booths previously, or they had seen Mark previously working at the booth. And so they ordered a beer and they said, you know what, it's so nice to see that the owner's taken a day off.
Yeah.
He's always doing these things, so it's nice to see that he's taken a day off. I was like, whatever. I don't know. I can't get all worked up about it. I just sort of laugh it off.
Yeah, I can attest to boneheaded comments like that. Let me give you one. And this is one I made. So just to, as much as I'm railing against need for, better tolerance and stuff. It's funny. I went to ask the person who was involved in this and it just didn't happen. And I'm not going to name names on this one because I don't know, it might be a bit embarrassing for them. But I have a friend, a mutual acquaintance in the industry, and he was at an event with his partner, who I did not know particularly well. I think I'd met her maybe once in passing. And we were kind of, like a little mini kind of group chat, a couple of different people talking. And then my friend was diverted on some sort of conversation and he was kind of turned away. And there was kind of a beat or two of, it wasn't quite awkward. Like it wasn't awkward. But I just felt like, oh, I should say something. And to be fair, Erica, generally my wife, doesn't come to these sorts of events with me because she dislikes them. And on the rare occasion that she ends up at that sort of a thing, and especially when I'm doing that sort of thing where I'm meeting and greeting and having, varied discussions and stuff like that, she's often just standing around bored out of her mind. And so I turned to my friend's partner, and in a way that at the time, and as soon as I kind of said it, it felt off. I was just trying to be like commiserating. I was like, oh, like, I can't even remember what I said. Something like, oh, like doing the craft beer widow thing. Like it must, I don't know, like something like it must suck coming to events like this and having that or something like that. And however I worded it, she kind of cocked an eyebrow at me and was like, I'm the reason why he drinks craft beer. And I was like, sorry. And like right away, I was like, wow, that was a really horrific thing for me to say. Totally sexist. I don't even know what came over me. And I think I was trying to like explain it and she kind of laughed, like she laughed it off. She was like, it's not a big deal. But man, I just felt like the biggest ass because it was classic. I was like, oh, like he's the dude. He's having the big chat about craft beer. You're standing there just drinking a beer. You must be bored. This must not be your scene. It's totally your scene. So
of course, guys like beer, girls drink coolers and wine, right? Like,
yeah. Well, that's it too. That's
I get it all the time with guys at beer festivals, and I don't know if it's because they really understand and listen to their girlfriend or their wife or their significant other, or it's because they make assumptions. But the guys will come up in all the time and they'll say, well, what do you have that's like light and fruity? I got to get something for my girl. Like, is that because she likes light and fruity, or is that because you're assuming that's what she drinks?
Well,
and you see it all the time with ladies' nights at bars, right? It's like cocktails and wine. Of course, ladies' night couldn't be the same thing as craft beer night at a bar. It's insanity.
Yeah. Worse than that is when you're at a craft beer place. And so on the one hand, a woman walks up to the bar. If a woman walks up to the bar and says, and anyone working at a craft beer place, hear me. If a woman walks up to the bar and says, like, what do you recommend? Or like a really open-ended request, do not immediately go to the fruit beer. Please, for the love of God. She might end up ordering the fruit beer, and that's fine. Don't go to the fruit beer. Okay. You wouldn't have gone to the fruit beer if it was a dude, unless you would. If it was that good a fruit beer, if you're recommending it to everyone that night, go ahead. But my God, don't just see a woman and go, oh, you want a fruit beer? Or, like that's insanity. That's offensive. And then even worse, again, not going to point fingers because it's a decent bar that has, for the most part, incredible staff. But I remember one time at a bar in the city, remaining nameless, I saw a male bartender try and talk a woman out of getting a double IPA. And he wasn't like, it wasn't quite mansplaining, but he was really being like, oh, it's pretty bitter. It's pretty bitter. And she's like, yeah, I like double IPAs.
Was it because she had previously indicated that she's not into bitter beers? Because that's the only acceptable response.
Well, I don't have that background, but I did hear her specifically say she drinks double IPAs. So, yeah.
I've never encountered that. I sort of wish I had, like, just as like a rite of passage for a woman, like just dealing with that crap. I sort of wish I had dealt with it so I'd have a different perspective, because I know my opinion or my perspective isn't necessarily a popular one, but I've just never had it happen. I've never gone up and said, hey, I'm really looking for a big dark beer or a double IPA. And someone said, but really, you're a girl, or even implied that to me. Ever. I've never, ever had that happen.
Yep. Well, I've seen it, and it was ugly. Like I almost wanted to like do something, but I didn't even know what to do. Like, what do you do in that situation? Hey, douchebag, just give the woman the beer, okay?
That, yeah, you have to make
Like, give anybody the beer.
Yeah.
The exception being if anybody says, "Oh, the IPA, I really like Keith's." That's an alarm bell right there.
Right. Then you should ask some more questions before deciding whether or not they're going to be satisfied with their choice. And that's always the approach I take. It's like, treat people like people. Their beer has no gender.
No, that's it. You know what? One of the blog posts I read, and you just said it. That's perfect. Let me get to it here. It's one of these. This is from Anti-Hero Brewing, which is an American brewery, I guess. I don't know anything about them, but I found this blog post, and I am going to make sure that I put this in the show notes by closing all of the other sexism posts. There we go. He says, I believe his name is Vinny, says, beer is for people. It doesn't care what bits you have between your legs. It doesn't care what color your skin is. It doesn't care what language you speak or where your parents came from. Beer is pretty effing fantastic that way. Unless you've got celiacs, then sorry, beer's not perfect. I simply beseech everyone who makes beer their business, hobby, or passion, stop effing it up for the rest of us with all of your bullshit.
That's so well said. Like, are you of age? Check. Are you cool with gluten? Check. Are you okay with alcohol? Check.
Do you have lips and a tongue? Yeah. Here you go. You know what? Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. If you don't have lips and a tongue and you have a way to drink beer, you're welcome to it.
Yeah, why not? Maybe you love the aroma and then you like pump it into your veins or something. I don't know. Beer seriously has no gender. It's insane. I had one other tiny anecdote that I was going to share with you, Chris, about sort of my experiences as a woman in the industry. A few times working festival booths with another man of any kind, whether they're one of my employees or a friend or a family, or even with Mark, the assumption will always be that the man is the boss. And I think that's not unique to craft beer. But when someone comes up to the booth or even into the brewery and asks like, who's in charge here? I want to talk to, who's the boss? The assumption is always that it's the man.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting. But oftentimes those are salespeople and I don't want to talk to them anyway. So I just say the boss isn't around right now. He's really busy. He's got a lot on the go. I'll let him know you dropped by. See ya.
Oh, that's good. Nothing beats using the sexism for your own gain. Okay, what's coming up for you guys? Any silent events? Have you planned any silent events yet?
I haven't, no. Everything sort of died down a little bit, so...
Yeah, I got that impression.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. So, what's going on? Just some stuff for our own brewery. It's not really public events that I need to promo, but if I sound kind of happy and excited versus the grumpy episode, I kind of am. It pretty much looks like the Jays are going to win the World Series. So that's exciting.
Plan the parade.
I have, and yes, I said it. Go on record, I said it. I have 2 Jays games lined up this week, personally, so that's going to be a lot of fun. This week with our team, we're doing what's called Summer Fun Day, so we're actually closing down the production, deliveries, and sales for the day. We're taking the team out for a day of good times and fun. So
can you say what, or is it a surprise?
Well, it's on Thursday, so I guess if this is going up on Friday, I can say.
I was going to put it up tomorrow on Wednesday.
Then I can't say because it's a surprise for the team.
Okay.
But follow us on Instagram.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they listen to the podcast anyway, but
they probably hear enough of you.
They're way too busy and they do not want to hear my voice after hours. Yeah, but we'll probably put it on Instagram and stuff because we have a really great day lined up for everyone, and we've all worked like dogs, so we're excited to get out of the office and have a day to just enjoy and sort of celebrate. What else? I just saw that Bo's Oktoberfest was announced, so we're trying to coordinate getting most of our team out there for the weekend.
We're going to make a little tent city?
I don't know. You should read the camping regulations this year, Chris. It looks like it's going to be a bit different, so we got to figure out our plan. They're going to be lock down the camping a little more than previously.
Gross.
Yeah, so check it out. That's our goal. We'll be camping anyhow. I just don't know that we'll be making tent city, but it'll be a good time regardless.
Yep.
What else is going on? We're pretty much done beer festival, so we're starting to work on our plans for Toronto Beer Week, which is in September.
Mm-hmm. Good to plan ahead.
Yeah, we have
Cask
some good.
days.
We have some really good stuff on the go already. Making our plans for cast days. So yeah, a lot of stuff on the go behind the scenes. And like I mentioned earlier, we're expecting some new fermenters toward the end of the month, and we're getting a new bottling line next week. So there's a pretty big expansion going on right now at our brewery, and we're just trying to manage through that and also stay on top of what's going on with the Jays because it's so exciting.
And you guys, I know you'll know. It would be so much more cooler if I just had it off the top of my head. What is it you're calling when you do pilot brews? Bush League or something like that?
No, it's the Little League series.
I should have thought of that one. Did you consider Bush League? Because that's a good name, I think.
Sounds kind of amateur.
It does sound kind of amateur. What, anything exciting happening there?
You know what? They haven't all turned out. So that the purpose of piloting the batches is to like prepare a recipe before we scale it up to a full scale batch, or like a full size batch. And we've had a few drain pours. So
hits and misses.
Yeah, and that's all part of new recipes and development and experimentation. So I remember our first drain pour on the Little League series. I asked Rob, one of our brewers, how does it feel as a brewer when you actually have to pour something out? And he told me much better than serving it. So
it's true.
It's a good answer. Yeah. So we only put something on the taps if we're completely happy with it. And we haven't always been in that case, but it's been fun because we've been working on a new recipe. We have a new brand that we're going to be launching in the fall. It'll launch the beginning of September, so I can probably share it in an upcoming podcast pretty soon. Nice. But we've brewed it a couple times on the small system, and we scaled it up just this week. Actually, they brewed the full production batch of it. So it'll be our new fall seasonal, and it'll take the place of Sunlight Park, which was our summer seasonal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
What do you have going on?
Not much beer wise. Got on Sunday we're going out to Sandbanks Provincial Park.
Beautiful.
Which if you're listening to this, actually I know for a fact about 3% of you aren't in Ontario. But if you're of the 97% who are, you gotta just be a tourist in your own province. Sandbanks is fantastic, and obviously I'm going there. I support that hugely. Fathom 5 up at like Tobermory or wherever. Man, beautiful marine park. We have some beautiful places in Ontario. Get outside, check them out. Parks Ontario is a great place to start. And so we're going out 4 days at Sandbanks. We went last year. The kids loved it. We loved it. It's drive up camping. The thing for us is it's cheap. You know, you could make it expensive if you wanted to buy some, beautiful wine and stuff, but you can do it as inexpensively as you would live any day normally in the city. Just head out, do a little drive up camping, and spend hours in the sun on like some of the nicest beaches in Ontario. And then after that, it's full on move mode because we have been beachers in exile, and we are making our grand return to the beach. This is the beach, the beaches in Toronto, in September. So we are really, really excited, and being back down by Castro's, it's going to be amazing.
Pretty close to left field. It's going to be great. Pretty
close to left field. But you know what? I've heard they don't do growlers, so fuck you guys. Speaking of Castro's, let's assume this goes up on Wednesday, in which case I'm totally going to leave this part in. That'll be today. That'll be tonight. That'll be in the next few hours. If you are in the East End and you have ears that you like to use, I'm going to invite you to come out to Castro's Lounge Wednesday night, August the 12th, because live, direct from the United Kingdom somewhere, I don't know where, it's a small place, is the Young'uns. These guys are going to be singing sea shanties. And I laugh even saying it because, gosh, could we be more hipsters? But if you have never listened to an a cappella group singing sea shanties, you have not lived. We have a fantastic sea shanty group here in Toronto. They're called Press Gang Mutiny. They're semi-regular at Castro's Lounge. Certainly one of their singers is a regular in a couple of the bands there. They're fantastic, and they're hosting these guys before these guys hit up a tour across North America, I think. And we are hosting them tomorrow night at Castro's Lounge, 8 o'clock p.m. No cover, just bring money for the jar and some money for beer. And my gosh, You are going to love it. And so hopefully see a lot of people there tomorrow night. I'll be there. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I got until Toronto Beer Week. That's the next big week for me too. And I'll be living in the beach, which means back on the streetcar line. This past Toronto Beer Week, I had to take the bus from Morden Station. And anybody who's taken the bus from Morden Station knows that blows. So
that really doesn't sound like a lot of fun. The other reason I'm excited to have you back at the beach is because hopefully your kids will see a little bit more of Wiggly as he grows.
I know. We even said like the other day, I was like, I got to take the kids by and see Wrigley because they haven't seen him in like almost a month, I think.
He's getting so big and he's so bad. He's so bad. He still loves cuddles and he loves kisses, just like I always imagine my kissy, cuddly puppy. But he is so bad. He's learning, but he's stubborn like a hound. Just like you would expect a hound to be. And he's stubborn. So learning is, it's all about consistency and, just not giving in to him. But he's so adorable. We actually had him down at the Roundhouse on Sunday with us. And you couldn't take 3 steps without him being swarmed by a new 10 people. Needless to say, his Instagram account gained about 150 followers that day. No lie. He helped us with cleanup, which involved him jumping in a big pile of ice that we had dumped out of the jockey boxes. If you haven't seen it on his account, it's adorable. Look at it. But he still can't walk up or down stairs, and he pretty much always trips over his own ears. He's really bitey and barky, but he's learning.
Nice.
Yeah.
He is adorable. Even if you can't buy a growler at left field, it's worth going by to see Wrigley. Or as you know, my daughter calls him Wiggly because she's 3. It's adorable.
I didn't even see it coming, but that's what we get from all kids. Every child that comes through the brewery and meets Wrigley calls him Wiggly. It's adorable.
Yep, it's so funny because he is.
He's so wiggly.
He is wiggly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this again in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
We're out of backdated content now. We're going to have to get creative.
We'll work on it.
Podcast listeners, I love you. And I see you out there. We get decent listens. Something in the neighborhood of like 60 or so listens an episode, I think, right now. So you're out there.
60 whole people. We should do some Q&A. Would that be fun?
Well, that's not exactly what I was about to say, but that's along the exact idea of what I was about to say, which is throw us some stuff. And yeah, Q&A. You got something you want to know? Want to know something about running a brewery? Ask Mandie. Want to know something about living off the fat of the land? Ask me. Want to know, ask something about how obnoxious hounds are? Hey, we both got experience there. So seriously, okay? You can message us so many different ways. We're on Twitter and Instagram, TO Beer Podcast, I think. Facebook, Toronto Beer Podcast, TorontoBeerPodcast.com. Okay, that actually might be it. But seriously, that's more than enough in today's day and age to reach out to us. Fire some stuff. Or if you got a cool story, you got something you want us to talk about, send it on out because we want to know. What are you guys thinking? And that will be great because I'm going to be on the beach for 1/3 of the next 2 weeks. So, yeah. So thank you. Thank you, Mandie. I will, I still got a beer for you from the United States. Got to drop that by. So.
Let's consume fresh. Let's meet up.
That's a double IPA. They age well.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for doing this, Toronto. Talk to you in like 2 weeks.